I recently read a book called Creativity Inc. by Catmull, who is the co-founder of Pixar Animation and currently the president of both Pixar and Disney Animation. This book is essentially a collection of wisdoms and stories that Catmull has accumulated over his long career of establishing and maintaining a successful creative company. While I don't align with every single argument made in it, I definitely found some great ideas that I think could be useful for anybody working in a creative field or environment. So here are a few things I've learned. One of the first things that Catmull addresses in the book was what happened after they completed Pixar's first feature film, Toy Story. They basically did something that no one has ever done before. Created the first animated feature film completely from computer graphics, one of Catmull's childhood dreams, which also became an immediate box office success. You'd think Ed would be ecstatic about this, but instead he was faced with this hollow lost feeling with no sense of purpose, as he describes it. This may seem strange, but in reality that's what happens to a lot of us when we focus single-mindedly on one goal for so long. You become lost and don't know what to focus on next, and it takes a lot of work to get back on track. Later, Catmull references a similar metaphor that he actually learned from George Lucas, whom he worked with, that went something like this. Building a company was like being on a wagon train headed west. On the long journey to the land of the plenty, the pioneers would be full of purpose and be united by the goal of reaching their destination. Once they arrived, people would come and go, and that's as it should be. But the process of moving towards something, of not having yet arrived, was what he idealized. When many people think of successful creative outputs, whether it's a movie or a product, they think that some person must have come up with a great idea. While that may be true in some circumstances, Catmull's perspective is that no idea exists independently in a vacuum. He talks about how great ideas are seldomly spawned from just one person, and it's almost always many people adding onto an idea that eventually makes it great. I think this is in general a healthy perspective to have. It can increase the value of teamwork and collaborative approaches. It makes it counterproductive to compete against or be jealous of a coworker. It makes it easier to work with other people who are either smarter, more skilled, or more experienced than you. Because in a team, those positive traits in others are helpful to you instead of being threatening to you. In a part of the book, Catmull explored how many of the films they made, the ideas in the beginning were just plain terrible. I can definitely relate to this because my own creative projects, whether they're designs, art projects, or videos like the one you're watching right now, are just absolutely terrible in the beginning. I often have to rework an idea like a bajillion times to make it better, or sadly sometimes abandon an idea entirely, and that's kind of why it's important to not get so attached to your ideas. This is hard, of course, because it's almost like having to throw out your own baby in the trash can, which is of course something you should only do metaphorically, not literally. So many of us get personally offended when someone else shoots down our idea, which is definitely something I've been guilty of in the past. But we need to take a step back and realize that they are not attacking you as an individual. They are just making honest assessments on the idea, and that it's okay to defend an idea that you can back up with strong arguments. But when you can't, you need to be willing to let it go. For many people who have not practiced drawing or painting, they may wonder how artists can depict a scene or object so accurately. Catmull points out that the biggest difference is that artists have been trained in careful observation. Basically, our brain has a tendency to jump to conclusions, or filling in the gaps in our visual field, instead of taking in every single thing we see. Catmull gives the example of getting someone to paint a picture of a lake. A person may be inclined to think that the lake must be blue, and goes to put down a field of blue on a piece of paper, but then realizes that it doesn't quite look right. Upon closer observation, the person realizes that the lake isn't in fact actually blue. It's actually patches of green, yellow, black, and flashes of white. A good artist has learned to be aware of these preconceptions and suppress their mind's tendency to jump to conclusions. And in this sense, something like art class isn't really about learning how to draw. It's about learning how to see. Thus, even if you're a person who doesn't aspire to be a painter, illustrator, or animator, learning the skills of objective observation and setting aside preconceptions are tools that can be beneficial for anyone. So these are just a few great, insightful ideas that I got from this book, and there are many more where those came from. So if you found these ideas helpful, I definitely recommend giving this book a read. Thanks for watching, and this is the first book review I've ever done. Let me know if you guys like this kind of stuff and would like to see more. If so, please leave your art/creativity book recommendations in the comments. Bye!